Right, I'm delighted to be joined by the CEO of Matchroom Multisport here in Manila, Philippines. Beautiful venue, beautiful place. We've got a massive competition, the Reyes Cup. This rest of the world lineup is absolutely stacked from Fedor Ghost to Jayson Shaw to Skyler Woodward, but this Asian team has been nothing short of spectacular. Monsters, you were saying they are before we started this interview. Tell me about this Asian team and why they've done so well.
Yeah, monsters is exactly it. And the thing is, like what I said, on paper, you wouldn't really consider them as the strongest team. There was a bit of controversy online when the teams got announced, because obviously, look, you got two off of the top rankings, but then you've also got two captains picks and a matchroom pick. You know, in these invitational events, they are broadcasted around the world. You want to make sure there's a fair representation across Asia. And so, you know, people were kind of hating on like AJ Manis. Like, he's got his own fan base who love him, but then some people were kind of hating on him a little bit because, you know, they didn't understand why he was in it. We've obviously been trying to push him this year, been giving him opportunities. Came to the Premier League pool earlier this year, didn't really perform. But here, different gravy, and this is his arena. And we've always noticed behind the scenes how much talent AJ has. And I think a lot of fan base do know that. But he's just not been given that opportunity to show the whole world this case. And then coupled with someone like Don Kwok Kwan, exactly the same. You know, his profile before we started the Hanoi Open 3 years ago wasn't global in terms of pool. It was just he was known in Vietnam as a great pool player. Now we've put him on the map. And he is out there. You see all of his reactions when he got picked into the cup, when he got, you know, matches here, when he's cheering to the crowd, like when they lifted him up after that singles game. And then you just see him at the team bench and he's just sat there with his hat on, like loving life. And you see there's so much passion. And I think that's the difference with Team Asia. You feel like they're all playing for their country. Like you feel like that they're playing with their heart on their sleeve, like it's an emotional, passionate play. And, you know, some people would say maybe there's like a language barrier, but when you look at it, like Don Kwok Kwan barely speaks English. He's got 3 Filipinos in his team, and then you've got Alyosha Yap, who's from Singapore. So actually, you know, that's quite a tough team to manage in terms of, you know, making sure that they're all communicating, but they get it. You know, they just say, I'm picking you up, let's go. And the dynamic between the two teams, I noticed it yesterday in the team game, and I really actually quite liked it, was during the team match, you found that all of Team Rest of the World were all pretty much up at the table talking to the players about what shot to take. And it was like, and you feel like there's quite a lot of egos maybe in that team. And then you look at Team Asia and you maybe think it's more of like a humble team, because AJ was at the table, Busty comes up, he's coaching him through it, sits back down, and it was Busty that kept coming up to the table. Whereas Team Rest of the World, it was like all these talents, all these personalities trying to get involved, and maybe it was kind of like too many cooks spoil the broth. So I don't know, listen, it's easy for me and you to sit here and the fans to sit there and say they should be doing this, they should be doing that. At the end of the day, we're not the ones out there playing. It's tough out there. But Team Rest of the World have come in motivated and happy. And they've told me that apparently we're here till 3 a.m. because the comeback's on.
I mean, AJ Manis has been nothing short of spectacular at his age as well. He's got the flair of Pele playing in the World Cup at 17, and then he's got the tenacity of Luke Littler as well, all wrapped into one. How far do you think this guy can go?
I mean, obviously we have huge expectations for him because we want him in this event. We've been pushing AJ Manis for a little while now. He is the Luke Littler of pool. And I just love his fearlessness. He's so chilled out. And by the way, like, don't let that fool you. He's been nervous. And when he came out to play Fedor Ghost, like I was saying, win or lose, he's got to be proud of how he's performed out here. And that match against Fedor that went hill, like I said to him, I was like, do you know what, even if you come off of that table and you'd lost that match, it's still incredible, because he's like, Fedor's the world number 1. AJ Manis is 18 years of age. Like, we all saw it when Luke Littler come runner-up at the World Champs. Everyone just went, oh my gosh, who is this kid? But he had been, you know, playing in the Q scores. Like, he had been behind the scenes and playing in the development, and then you bring him to that stage, everyone goes, wow, what a talent. So that's our job as the promoter, is to bring them into this stage. Some people would say that maybe AJ wasn't ready for this type of event at this point in his career. Personally, I know that it's different between sportsmen and, you know, working in life. I personally learned by being thrown in the deep end. That's my way of learning, and I think that that's a great way of learning. You know, if you hadn't have put him in this team this year, he wouldn't have been given this opportunity. His fan base wouldn't have significantly grown. And now his confidence is through the roof. I mean, you look at him out there, he's just like, he's laughing. And, you know, when Team Rest of the World jumped on the table, he's smiling, he's laughing, he's lifting Duong Quoc Quan up. And for someone like him to come into this arena, like, he has just got such a huge future ahead of him. He's 100% going to be a world 9-ball champion. If not that, it will be a major event he will come and pick up. But I can't wait to see how he performs for this 2026 season, because this is just the beginning for AJ Manis.
Absolutely. I mean, AJ Manis, such a fantastic player, and his success didn't come overnight. He was telling me that he didn't buy his first table. His granddad actually made it for him. So a spectacular story there, and you're unlocking all these different stories from all these players from all these different parts of the world.
Exactly. Like, I go back to Vietnam, Duong Quoc Quan. When we launched the Hanoi Open 3 years ago, people knew him, but the global entity didn't know him. And then all of a sudden, every year, more Vietnamese players were participating in the Hanoi Open and then getting through to the last 64, the last 32. The last 16, we had one local Vietnamese player get to the last 16 of the Hanoi Open, which had never happened before. So the whole point of the World 9-Ball Tour is not for us to just sit in the UK and, you know, just put on these events that have all the bells and whistles in the arena. It's about developing the grassroots of pool everywhere, because everyone can play pool. It's accessible. People go on dates to go and play pool because it's an icebreaker, you know, and it's one of those things. You go with your mates, like I said, you go on a date, or you go in like a competitive level. And now it's about showing the world that it can be a global professional sport, because you've got the likes of AJ Manis going out there. Sky Sports News obviously are clipping up 9-ball, you know, the golden break that went down, and people can see, actually, if I want to grow up and I want to become a professional pool player, there's money in it, I can increase my profile, there's exposure, and I can travel around the world for a professional tour. I mean, you think about it, 4 years ago, we had like 3 or 4 events a year. Now we're looking to be 15 events, Matchroom events next year. That growth that we've been in just a couple of years is incredible. When you look at when darts and snooker started, it took them years to achieve what we've achieved in just 3 years. And so if we're growing at that kind of speed, you kind of look at it and go, gosh, like, where are we going to be in the next 3 years' time? Like, what are Team Asia going to be next year? And, you know, there's a lot of talk online about Team Rest of the World being so awful, and, you know, we should change the format, we should do this. Listen, everyone's talking about it. At the end of the day, as far as I'm concerned, and if I'm sat at home and I'm a professional pool player playing on the World 9-Ball Tour, I'm picking up my cue, 2026 calendar comes out, I'm travelling here, because I'm going to go and challenge Team Asia, because I want to win the Rest of the World team, and I deserve to be out there, and I want to be the best. So, you know, I think we've sparked something so incredible here. You know, yes, it might be kind of a bit of a, you know, a bulldozed event where Rest of the World have just completely been whitewashed, sort of thing. Well, they got 1 point yesterday. But I say it just creates even more drama for next year. The fans have still arrived. You know, I think it's going to be the best attendance tonight, because they all want to see Team Asia take the cup and, retain it. So I just think we've created something really quite special here. This event and the Moscone, totally different events. Also, everyone's talking about the Mosconi Cup now. They're saying, you know, what's going to happen this December? Ali Pali's always a packed out crowd for us. It's like the big cauldron, a big 360. And I said to Moritz Neuhausen yesterday, we were talking, and I said, excuse my language, you'll crap your pants out at the Mosconi Cup. Because I said, you've played really well here, as in, you know, a lot of people would crumble under that kind of pressure. Same with AJ Manis. Like, the both of them have, I think, done themselves really proud as rookies, essentially, in this type of format. And he said, you know, well, the Moscone, I'm excited. I said, listen, Moscone's a different ball game because you feel like the fans are on top of you and everyone's drinking. It is a darts crowd. And there is heckling, like it is on another. Sometimes I sit at Mosconi Cup and I go, was it this bad last year? And every year it gets worse and worse, as in like how, you know, harsh the crowd are. But it sells the arena out, and people love the Mosconi Cup. You know, if they don't get their darts tickets, they go to the Mosconi because it's, I'm not going to say it's the second best, but it's a similar atmosphere. And I just think there's so much talk this week. And and it's really quite happy. Even though the scoreline is the way it is, I should be really sad and crying in my room every night. But everything happens for a reason. Team Asia are dominant. They have been the best team. And the scoreline says it all. And fair play.
Absolutely, and we've touched on some of these players who've had amazing journeys, but you've had a fantastic story on your own. I mean, talking about how you started in Matchroom, you're ordering the pizza, you're making the tea, and then you fast forward like a decade and you're handing the Reyes Cup to Ephraim Reyes last year. You must have to pinch yourself sometimes at how far you've come.
Yeah, I think I never really thought about it. You know, this is always just like my day-to-day job. So I've never really gone, oh, look at how far I've come. It's only where I've done certain interviews and things like that, and people say it to me, and I'm like, oh, yeah. But look, I got, similar to like, say like an AJ Manis, for example, I got given a great opportunity at the age of, how old was I? At the age of like 24. Obviously, I started in the TV department at Matchroom. That's where my knowledge is. Like, the broadcast is like, it's in the back of my mind. And I do love everything to do with the television. I learn everything I know in terms of TV, producing, the way that it should be set up in there is from Barry's daughter, Katie Hearn. And she was an incredible director at Sky Sports, like before she worked at Matchroom. And she was relentless, fearless, she got the job done, and she was a great director for poker. And it made me fall in love with poker, which is wild, right? And I used to work on these poker shows, and it would be like, I don't know if anyone ever remembers the 48-hour cash game, and it would literally be 48 hours of non-stop poker. And so normally you have two sets of teams. You know, you come in for the first shift, and then you go to Katie. She loved the show so much. She was like, I'm staying on, and we talk about it now and we laugh about it. And obviously, so I stayed with her, and so I learned everything from her. But there was always something about the live events. Like, I'd sit in some of the Avid suites, like editing some of the highlight programs, and I went and floor managed on the pool events. My first overseas pool event was the World Cup of Pool in Manila, and so Katie sent me over as part of the TV team. And I remember I interviewed Ralph Souquet and Torsten Homan, and I said it in the press conference the other day. I was in the shopping centre and I was going to get, like, I don't know, a sandwich or something, and I'm going up the escalator, and I just see like these two guys and a massive crowd of people, like hundreds. I'm like, what's going on there? It's like LeBron James here or something. And it was Busty and Ephraim. And I'm like, no idea who these guys are. I'm like 21 at the time, right? I'm like, no idea. And then I go down and I speak to like the referee and like the tournament staff. And they're literally the biggest names in pool. And I'm like, got no idea who they are, right? So I come back, and basically my first 4 years at Matchroom working with Katie, I always said to her, I love the live events. I said, I want to run events. And she was the one who put me forward to Barry. And for that, I'll forever be grateful to her, because like someone like AJ coming into this arena, like, I got that opportunity given to me. And that's how I like our tour being, how our team being. You get given that opportunity, you get thrown in the deep end, and that is how you learn. And look, yeah, it's great to be sat here to make the Reyes Cup happen, because it was an event that never was there. You know, Barry always said you need a Team Asia form of the Moscone. He created the Moscone. But for me to be sat here year 2 and it's still a successful event, you know, it's really quite an achievement. And I've got a great team that helps me do it.
100%. And with Matchroom, you get to do so many different sports. I've even seen on your Instagram you've been fishing with Johnny Fisher. What was that like?
I remember Barry was saying it to me. You obviously do Fishermania, right? And it's the longest, sporting event on Sky Sports. And so everyone loves Fishermania. It's like this one-day event. And so it was my first ever event when I went into the new role at Matchroom. And I turned up at Fishermania, and I'll tell you this story anyway. And basically, one of the anglers, and I used to call them players, don't do that by the way, James. One of the anglers was apparently using the wrong type of maggot. So I'm in like the office, which was a marquee outside. And this is my first event in my new role where Barry's gone, here you go. Katie's like, here you go, sort of thing. And I'm there, and the angling trust come in. They're like, yeah, you're going to disqualify him. And I'm like, I've got no fucking clue what is going on right now. And I'm pulling out like the player contracts. I'm like, right, what's happening? Where's the rules? What's this? So in over my head, like 24, 25. Am I going to really disqualify someone who's trying to earn £50,000? And then Sky come in and they're like, what are you going to do, Emily? And I'm like, I have no idea. So I'm just kind of like, I went out and I was just like, look, we don't want to be disqualifying anyone. You know, he didn't know he was doing it, and kind of made this decision. And from then on, obviously we did Fishermania every year, and I learnt from that. But then like last year, Barry turns around, he's like, right, we do this Sports Star Challenge. It's a great day. It's like for a really good cause. And it's basically like ex-sports stars coming together. So Baz is like, you got to come and fish in it. And I'm like, I don't fish. Like, I run Fishermania, but I don't fish. So at Fishermania 2 weeks before, I was like, someone just give me like a 15-minute crash course. I'm in like a dress. I'm in like sandals. And I'm there and I'm like, so what do I do? And they're putting like the maggot on. I mean, listen, I can sort of wear trackies and a hoodie, but I've got like long nails. Like I'm a girl, like a girl's girl at the end of the day. And I'm there and I'm like, right, okay, this will be fine. Sports Star Fishing comes along. I bring this book that was like Fishing for Dummies. So I was with Johnny Fisher in our team. And basically there was this one point where we were in the lead as a team for like half the day. And then I was planning for one of my next events and basically a load of stuff went wrong. So bearing in mind, like I'm sat there fishing for like 4 hours. Phoebe, who's like my right hand, she's sat there helping me do emails and stuff. I've got my earphones in, just making calls because stuff was going wrong. Within that hour of me trying to fix a load of stuff somewhere else, I caught the most weight that anyone had caught all day, like in just this 1 hour. And everyone was like, then all of a sudden, like the camera come over and they're like, Emily, you're like in the lead. And I'm like, what? I'm just trying to like solve this problem here. But I think I was having such a nice time. Like I said to Barry afterwards, I was like, I found it really enjoyable. Like I felt it was relaxing. And so I'm like doing this phone call and I'm catching a fish, and my guy Lee, who was my bank runner, he's like, Emily, you're doing great, just keep doing whatever you're doing. And I was like, but I found it really enjoyable. So look, we do loads of different sports. I think that's what makes multi-sport so good, because we don't get bored. Like it's very easy to get bored being in the same sport. You know, you don't think outside the box. You turn up and it's the same event, it's the next event, you're just going to a different location, you're going through the motions. One thing that Barry's always installed in us is don't get complacent. And so I actually think it's a beauty that we have different sports, because we can't get complacent. You physically can't, and I like that. It might be real tough work, but I'd much rather go to sleep at night knowing I've put in 110% every day and it's hard graft than not contributing at all.
Yeah, 100%. It's clear you put the effort in tonight, because the Reyes Cup has been absolutely spectacular throughout the entire competition. Now obviously we're going to be going into the Mosconi Cup, and linking that in a little bit, obviously we've had Jayson and Skyler on the same team. They're obviously rivals in this pool world, so what do you think the dynamic's been like between them, and how do you think they're going to evolve now going back into that rivalry at the Moscone Cup?
I think I've created like a little beast amongst them in the bad way, where it was like I've put two 12-year-olds together that just want to basically sit in a classroom. Like I feel like sometimes I'm the teacher at the front, and every time I turn around, they're sticking something on my back. That is literally how it feels. But look, I mean, that might sound awful, but at the end of the day, it's weird having them both on the same team. They are kind of the backbone of both Europe and USA. I think that there's some weird dynamic with Team Rest of the World this year where, I don't know, a lack of maturity maybe, and I think that they've struggled to find their groove a little bit. Maybe like the rivalry between USA and Europe is always there. You know, off the table, Skyler and Jayson really like one another, so there's never been that kind of, you know, I want to kill you kind of vibe at the Moscone. If anything, it probably brings a bit of banter to the table. The needles probably with some other players. But yeah, it's been a strange one this year with the dynamic. But I mean, they seem pumped up in there. But like I said, all the talk that's happening this week, even saying how awful Team Rest of the World are, every comment is like, yeah, but Moscone Cup. So listen, at the end of the day, I'm the best promoter in the world in pool, right? Because you got everyone talking about it. But I mean, I'm joking. But whatever happens, the arena is going to be great, and I just hope it's not going to be one-sided. I'm the most biased person when it comes to the Mosconi Cup. I don't mind. I want a USA win this year, obviously, and I'll happily say that. But you want it to be competitive. And the only thing that I've seen with the Rest of the World this year is that kind of give-up mentality. And I've noticed that in USA the last couple of years for the Moscone. And I really hope they switch that around tonight. And I see something different, because it'd be a shame for them to have that give-up. I know the scoreline's awful to see. But I'm not sure about the rivalry. It'll be interesting to see. You know, they were both playing captains last year. I'm not sure that's going to be the case this year.
You've been on such a wild ride that we talked about, going from ordering the pizzas all the way to putting on the Reyes Cup and even becoming world class in the fishing department. But looking at where you are now, what do you think is the wildest or craziest story you've ever had in your career?
Oh, wow. Put me on the spot. There's so many. Like, I always remember this one story from, I know, like, I can't even, this is just the first one that's come to my mind. But I remember, I think all the best stories come from the poker days. I'm going to try my chance at poker, by the way, in December, because I kind of can play. No, I actually can't play anymore, but I'm going to have a go at it because I love poker. It's like how I first got in. And one of the best stories I had was, you know, back when we pre-recorded and things weren't live, which is wild to think, right? I remember basically we're at the Playboy Club, and it was like, no, sorry, it's not like, it doesn't sound like that. It's a casino. So basically we shut it down for, was it Premier League poker or the big game? And we shut it down for that. And basically we were recording right in this corner, and there was a problem with the graphics. So we had to stop play for an hour. So players are fuming, and they're poker players as well. And then we start again, and basically they were buying in, and so yeah, it was a cash game. And this new player comes in, and basically it was this American, like, because there were poker players, but then there were like other players who were more businessmen who wanted to come in and play. He's come in, his shirt was all stripes, so it was strobing. So we sit there and we're kind of like, look, we don't want to stop the game again because they're all going to be fuming. So we got to keep it going. But you couldn't really record it because it was just strobing on screen. So I've had to go to his hotel room to go and get a new shirt. And I'm like, but that's just like kind of like an insight as to, you just kind of do whatever job gets the job done, because at the end of the day, you don't want to stop the show, but you got to go and get something. And it was just, I just remember sitting in this taxi going around in London thinking, what am I doing? Like, I'm just going, I'm finding this shirt, come back, sorted, carry on. He's in like a navy shirt, no strobing, everything's fine. But I mean, that's one of like 1,000 stories of like, I can even imagine like last week, we're in Hanoi Open. You know, there's things that come up and you can never imagine that you try to plan every contingency ever. I'm a very controlling person. I am a control freak. I know I am. I think the first thing is admitting it. So, but you can't, no matter how much planning you do, you can't foresee what's, you know, every possible outcome. And every event, something happens, and you have to adapt. You have to find something, and you have to, you know, fix it. But that's happening all the time. It's like here, you know, last night, you look at it and you go, within seconds, you've got to not change the format, but you've got to pull a game. You've got to do this. I could tell you there's stories every single day that is a challenge, to kind of get through. But I just think it builds character. You go through that in life and you learn something along the way for everything. Like, I'll go back to that poker moment. I will forever know now, going on TV in that sort of striped shirt, like, that don't work. Do you know what I mean? So it's just like, you learn so many things, and that's what I love about this job. Like, from when I first started to literally like doing music cue sheets doing golf graphics, I've learned so much stuff that can help me through life, and I wouldn't change anything, even like the crappy stuff that hits you during mid-event, or like bad communication on the ground. I don't know. You learn and you just find your way through it, and you come out at the other end so much stronger, so much more knowledgeable, because you've had to navigate through it. So I could bore you with millions of stories, I tell you that. But the poker days are the ones that definitely toughened us up.
100%. Emily, thank you so much for giving me some time. It's really appreciated. I'm really looking forward to seeing how the final night of the Reyes Cup unfolds. But before I let you go, is there anything else that you'd like to mention?
Well, have you ever watched pool before, James?
Watched a little bit. This has really been the first time I've got immersed in it.
Okay, so as someone who's really not come to like a professional pool tournament, this is your first time. How do you feel it has been as like a casual sports fan?
I've really enjoyed it. I think the crowd makes a massive difference. It's amazing seeing how enthusiastic the Asian fans are and how amazing Team Asia has done for them. It's great how motivated the Asian players have been to perform for their crowd. And I think it's been really fascinating to watch this side that's absolutely stacked fall apart under the pressure of this Asian team.
Yeah, and it just shows you, because I think that so many people at home don't respect the talent of a pool player. That's why we like tighten the pockets up a little bit, make it more professional, make them come across like they're an athlete. Everyone gets to know their personalities, because they don't get the credit they deserve. They are incredible sportsmen out there, incredible, and they've got so much talent to show. So many different ages, they're from different parts of the world, and yet they're brilliant. And it's just, for me, it's frustrating, because I love this sport because I've fallen in love with it. I wasn't a pool player, like poker was like my first thing. But I love this sport now, and I just want everyone else around the world to see what me and you can now see, because now you've seen this. Like 100% you would, correct me if I'm wrong, you'll probably go, oh, wonder what's going to happen at the Moscone. Like
100%, yeah, absolutely.
You're going to tune in and be like, right, so who's playing? Who are the captains? What's the scoreline going to be? Do you know what I mean? Because you're bought into it now.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of what they do seems almost impossible. For example, you can watch boxing, you can watch darts, and you could physically throw a punch or throw a dart. But to do some of the trick shots, for example, that Fedor Gors can do seems physically impossible.
Exactly. So we have the best players in the world. They got great personalities. They are humble as ever. Listen, 9-ball pool is on the rise. It's going to be on everyone's screens. It's everywhere around the world, and the atmosphere is going to grow. We just need to take the atmosphere that's been here to every other destination. We've done it with the Mosconi Cup, but listen, Ali Pali, that's going to be rocking, but hopefully it's a bit more competitive than it is here.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Emily. Thank you.